Hey everyone, today is day 4 of our 31-day journey, and today's reading comes from the book of Leviticus. Now, Leviticus is probably one of the hardest books to get through. Many people who start reading in Genesis are like, oh, this is great, some great stories in here. And Exodus the same thing, but Leviticus is where people tend to get bogged down. So the readings in Leviticus today are just two little snippets of the law that God gave to Moses and the Israelites, just like the Ten Commandments, but this would be the whole law that came after or along with the Ten Commandments. And it gets kind of down into the nitty gritty. But here God is telling his people that he's forming this nation, remember? This nation that he's forming. He's telling them how he wants them to be his people. Because God is holy, he demands holiness from his people. And how can a holy God live with a sinful people? Doesn't make sense. So he's showing them how to live. So the first reading talks about if someone sins unintentionally, if they break God's command, there still needs to be punishment or sacrifice made for that. And so God instituted a whole sacrificial system to deal with their sins. And it involved taking a lamb or a goat that was perfect, without blemish, and that lamb would be sacrificed to God, and its blood would be spilt, and it would be burnt as an offering, and their sins would be forgiven. And then the second reading talks about, and this one is actually more interesting to me, because we see in this God's desire for his people to be holy like he is. And it talks about them offering their children to another god, which would be totally despicable. But the nations around them had these practices, and God was calling them to be a separate people, a holy people, different from the nations around them. And also he bans witchcraft and sorcery, because he wants them to look to him for guidance and protection instead of what the other nations, what they look for. So again, two snippets from God's law, and we have this sense that God is building a people of promise. That's today's reading.